Hello there, this is DBT and this is Art of Rooms. And alright, let's continue talking about Asphalt Legends. And today, I'm going to finally give you my thoughts related to the changes in multiplayer that were introduced in the last update to the game. I'm talking specifically about the MP1 changes to the rewards and to the car selection, because there are a ton of questionable decisions over there, but also a couple of interesting ones that I think could eventually lead into some decent changes to multiplayer. But before I get into it, if you enjoy my content, please hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. It's free, it helps, so why not? It supports DBT, so go ahead, like and subscribe. But alright, so I'm gonna be talking about the rewards that you can get in multiplayer, but I'm gonna spend more time really talking about the car selection, because over there is where I feel like the fun of the game can really be put into question. So, first things first, when it comes to the rewards, I'm gonna be straight with you. I do not know if there were any changes to the Milestone rewards. Why? Because I never play enough multiplayer to make my way into the rewards to be able to tell you, oh yeah, they changed it. It used to be 60,000 over here and they reduced it. I have absolutely no idea. And this just ties with the whole point that multiplayer, for me at least personally, specifically MP1, has been really more about just the competition than the rewards. And that is not to say that I don't want good rewards. I absolutely want good rewards, but they have been so insignificant for so long that I no longer pay attention to them. I just play MP1 in order to get the league rewards, which were the ones that I was more interested on. But really, when it comes to the milestones, I really don't know. I've never cared. But if you know what, if there were any negative or positive changes over here to the milestone rewards, do let me know in the comments, because I would love to hear from somebody that actually knows. But I'm gonna focus for a second over here in the league's rewards, because while the rewards themselves are not super interesting over here, I have a really good view of the different packs and the contents of said packs, because oh boy, this is where the headaches begin. Now, in general, the cars that you were able to get in these packs have always been a combination of relatively rare, relatively common cars, you know, nothing super extreme on either side, at least when it comes to the lower side of these packs. However, as I made progress into looking at the packs this time around, I was really disappointed to realize that now all of the cars in these packs are Legend Shop cars, or Legend Store cars, I guess that's the better term. All of these cars are cars that you can find in the Legend Store, so that you could even argue or say that these are common cars. Now, to be fair, as I always say, all of this is very subjective. So by that I mean that the experience that I have as a garage player, as a player of a garage level 40 or maybe 50, something like I have on my main account, is gonna be really different than your experience if you're, say, a player of garage level 7 or something like that. So for you, maybe the idea of getting blueprints of the 570 Spider, the Carrera GT, and the Ferrari F8 Tributo is actually a good thing. So that is fair enough. I'm not saying that this is completely useless to everybody. But the point that I'm making is that all of these cars are Legend Store cars that over time you will be able to get in the Legend Store. The draw towards these packs used to be that they contain some rare stuff, but now that's no longer the case. By the way, the difference between Platinum packs and the Champion packs is just that the Champion removes these two Class C cars that have been found since the very first packs. Man, oh, that is the wrong thing that I wanted to click on. Yeah, look at this. It's these same two cars found all the way until these packs. It's ridiculous, but anyway. So that is the problem that I have with this, that the cars are too common. Now, to be fair, in the Legend pack, there is one rare car in the form of the Bugatti Mistral. That is considerably rare. It is not a Legend Store car, so that is a bit of a unique one, but that is the only one. And besides, you know that these packs do not eliminate cars that you have at max stars. Instead, no matter if you have all of these cars at 6s or, well, whatever is their max stars, you're still probably gonna get a bunch of blueprints for all of these cars, and very rarely you're gonna get blueprints for this. If these packs had the system where it eliminates cars that you already have at max stars, then I think this would be relatively alright, because in that way you would be able to make some sort of linear progression. Granted, very slow, but still linear progression. But imagine playing a ton into finally getting your Legend packs to only get blueprints for your McLaren 570S Spider that you acquired and golded out 2 years ago. that is absolutely terrible. And this has been the case always. This is not new in the sense that getting rewards from these packs is very, very random, and tons of times it's absolutely worthless. But again, the fact that they added salt to the wound by making all of these cards to be common cards, and only over here you can find the rare card, this is absolutely ridiculous. I hate this change so very much. Now that is another reason why I will not be playing a ton of MP1, because, well, you know, I'm not super interested in these packs, not even in the league rewards this time around. But alright, now I just want to focus into the car selection because, well, here's the thing, right? They added a new league, the Champion League, which is found between Platinum and Legend. Now, in order to make a space for this, they had to remove the amount of sub-leagues in the previous ones. So Bronze used to have 4, as well as Silver and Gold and Platinum. Now all of them have only 3 sub-leagues, which means that, for example, reaching Platinum would take a lot less time than reaching Platinum in the previous iteration of multiplayer. Now you will see why that matters in a second, related to a certain card that it's a reward over there, but whatever. I want to have a look at the cards that are in each one of these sub-leagues. And I'm just going to go quickly over here, but just giving you the idea that at the start you're going to encounter the the common card, bad cards, except that you already found and can find an Evo card. Notice the ranks: 1400, 1400, 1500, 1600, 2200. Completely out of sorts because this doesn't belong. And this is the pattern with Evo cards. Over here you're gonna see again the BMW fromage, excuse me, the homage. And well, mine is not evoed out, though I could, and then I could make it into a way higher rank that would absolutely outperform most, if not all, of the cars over here. Now, to be fair, there are other Class C cars like the Lotus Evora, which is a lot faster than the Class D cars that is gonna be competing against most of the time. But hey, in the low leagues, it's still, I don't believe, so relevant. When we get over here, you're gonna encounter a common card like the Lotus Elise, but then you're also gonna start encountering Class B cars like the Aston Martin DB11 that goes, what is this, almost 70 kilometers faster than that Lotus. Now granted, that creates this interesting dynamic that you can drive a very fast car but requires a skill versus driving a very easy car, but you know, it doesn't go as fast. But you know what is the meta in the game in terms of, you know, long nitro and acceleration? Well, the Lotus is probably still gonna be able to do quite well over here. But moving on, when we get into Silver 3, you already see a Ford Shelby GT 350, which is an Evo car, but over here is not going to be as important or as strong because it's going to be competing against Class B cars, which again are way faster than, say, a Class D car. You see a bunch of Class D cars over here. So yeah, this already starts feeling unfair. Now moving into Silver 2, what we find over here, honestly, I don't think there's anything like super strong over here. I think that the strongest car is gonna be the Asterion. But this, once again, brings the whole topic of Gameloft continues to pair or create this quote-unquote filters of cars just based on the rank. And that is completely wrong. Gameloft, stop doing this, please. You cannot compare the performance of a 2900 ranked Class D car versus a 2900 Class B. For example, over here, we got the Asterion with a top speed of 336 and an acceleration. Well, I'm not going to read each one of this, but you can see a top speed of 336 versus a barely 300 of this car, 303. Massive speed difference, and in general, the rest of the stats and the overall performance is going to be quite different. If you put a driver with the exact same skill, driving at the same skill level, an Asterion and a Huracan Super Trofeo Evo, the Asterion is probably gonna win every single time because it's a better car. The rank doesn't tell the whole story, but Gameloft continue to pair these cars in this way, and that is what makes this absolutely terrible. Moving on in Silver 1, you can already see a Class A car competing against a Class D. Notice the insane gap over there between Class D and A. Granted, this is the quote-unquote worst Class A car, but still, that speed difference, it's 342 versus what? Well, this is only at 4 stars, but the top speed is probably gonna reach barely 300. So once again, you see this massive difference. And once again, we have this same problem where the quote-unquote elite or the higher tier cars of a previous class, it's really overranked, or the higher classes are way underranked. I don't know which one is true, but there's definitely some case over there that these ranks don't make any sense. And Gameloft continues to pair the cars based on the ranks alone, and that is what absolutely destroys this whole thing. Moving into Gold 3, over here you can find a pretty decent Class A car in the form of the Neo EP9, competing even against Class C. But more worrisome than that, there's also the Bentley Continental GT Speed, which which I only have at 1 star. But if you have it at max star, this car is really agile, pretty powerful over here. So I can see this absolutely destroying the majority of the cars of this sub-league. Once again, we can have a poor Class C car against Class A, gonna get eaten alive. In Gold 2, well, what do we have over here? Honestly, I think over here, there are a couple of cars that could be quite strong. We have the rare one in the form of the Pagani Zonda HP Barchetta. It is not necessarily the fastest for Class A. In fact, it's kind of funny because if you compare the speed of this, of 348 versus this, of also about 340 something, you go like, man, you see, it kind of makes sense even though it's Class C versus Class A. But the rest of the stats are not comparable. So yeah, no. If you, once again, same scenario, put a Vencer Star versus a Zonda HP Barchetta in the same scenario with the same driver, the same skill level, the Zonda is going to win every time. There's another car that is the more common one that I think is going to be considerably strong over here. By the way, mine is painted pink since Valentine's stream, but hey, whatever. Considerably fast, good acceleration, not very good at handling or drift, and decent nitro. So this one is probably going to be able to do some damage. But up to this point, still, the matchups are questionable. Again, a bunch of Class C cars that even though they're a higher rank than the HP Barchetta, you know, again, the maximum rank, this car will absolutely lose to this car every single time if they're both driven in the same skill level. Getting into Gold 1 is where, oh boy, this starts hurting. Because, we got some relatively common cars. Oh, a Class C car. That is a quite fun one to drive, but nah, it's fine. What else do we? Oh god, we have an Evo Class B Lambo over here. Oh boy, it's gonna deal a lot of damage. That's gonna be very, very strong over here. Oh, look at that. We got a powerful Diablo GT for Class C. Oh, driving against a very strong Class B car in the form of the Formula E Gen 3. Oh my god, I wonder. Oh my god. Yep, ZR1 is right here. Already, in Gold 1, we have the ZR1. What? What? This car will absolutely destroy everything. And once again, we get to the whole point that I keep on complaining. I've tried to provide this feedback to Gameloft so many times, and they continue to not listen. Gameloft, for the love of God, stop allowing cars with Evo tunes to compete in the same leagues where this car without Evo tune would compete. Because this car, its normal rank at Gold, it's something like 3,800, which is comparable to 3,800 over here. Now, because this is Class C versus Class A, already is going to be unfair. But it's made way more unfair when you have a 3,800 Class C versus a 4,500 Class A with Evo tunes. This is absolutely ridiculous. This car at this tune should not be competing in Gold 1. It should be competing in Platinum 3 or 2 or 1. I don't know. This doesn't belong here. Now, I'm not saying to move the ZR1 permanently into Platinum, because if you don't have it evoed out, it's gonna underperform. What I'm saying is that depending on the rank, move it into a different sub-league. Otherwise, this just breaks the balance massively, because at this point, who cares about any of these cars? So long as you have the ZR1, you don't need to drive any other car. Just focus on this one and forget about everything. Moving into Platinum 2, yeah, we got some decent Class B that once again, because we have the ZR1 back there, is still gonna eat them alive. Same thing with the Gallardo. Poor Gallardo. What is he doing over here? Man, Class C car against Evo Class B, against Class B. Excuse me. Again, same thing with the McLaren GT versus Senna GTR. The Mercedes AMG GT Black Series, Jesus Christ. I'm telling you, Gameloft needs to stop pairing these cars based on the rank alone. It doesn't work. Now, over here, moving forward, once again, all of these cars still are gonna be competing against that ZR1. I wanna make it really, really clear that ZR1 will continue to terrorize all of these cars. Just saying, thought of putting it out there. Oh, look at that. The Daytona SP3, really high rank, possibly competing against way stronger cars. Yay. Moving on, over here we got the Scourge of the Earth, the Vanda Dendrobium. Of course, we got the Vanda over here. Now, the Vanda versus something like the Invincible, which is a lower class, you know, it still can be a decent race, but against a Class C, like the Nissan ZGT4, once again, what is this poor thing doing over here? Absolutely ridiculous. There's also the Peugeot 9X8, which, you know, it's kind of similar to the Vanda in some way, so yep, this can also probably gonna be a bunch of pain. Other than that, well, there's a Glickenhaus 007, but, you know, I think that's relatively right where it's found. Moving on into Platinum 1. Okay, so now remember that Platinum, really, this would be like Gold 2 or something like that, but now it's Platinum 1 because of how they rearranged the whole thing, so Yeah, we're still gonna find some Class B cars, but we already find some strong Class A like the Utopia, the Citroën GT by Citroën. Now, you may notice something interesting. We haven't found a single Class S car, even though we're already in the ranks where Class S would be found. And this is the part where I want to make clear that I believe this is an interesting change that could be developed further into segregating the classes. But anyway, particularly in this league, I don't find anything that is super strong. At least I don't think so. Yeah, the 935, it's quite strong. So is the 911 GT3 RS, though obviously this one is probably gonna beat the 911 by simply virtue of being a higher class. The 650S is quite strong, but you know, I don't see anything that instantly jumps right out. Again, do keep in mind, all of this is already competing against that ZR1 back there and the Vanda and all of that, but whatever. Now over here we get into the interesting part, which is Champion, where now you finally get to find Class S cars. Now notice the rank of Class S cars over here, 4,000, 4,100. At 4,000 we already saw Class C cars, and in the previous version of the multiplayer and MP1 you could find a W Motors Lycan Hypersport competing against a Lamborghini Gallardo because they were of similar rank. But over here, apparently GameLove was like, no, okay, these Class S cars have no business competing against those other classes. And you know what? That's fair enough, at least when it comes to Class C. Though I would argue that these cars still have business competing against Class A. I'm not against the combination of league or what do they call it? League mixing. I'm not against it. I'm not like, oh, each one of the classes need to be on their own side like it was in Asphalt 9. No, that's not what I'm suggesting. But I do like the idea of not allowing a Class C car competing against a Lycan because it's absolutely ridiculous. So this is the one thing that I see as being a bit of an interesting development in terms of trying to make it so that the pairings are not done exclusively by rank, but also considering the class. And this is the only part where I'm noticing this. Now you will see that we'll still find some Class A cars, even Class B, like the Huayra R. Now to be fair, the Huayra R versus the Lycan, yeah, that's still kind of a really unfair matchup, but hey, we got Class A, and oh boy, we already got the SF90 Stradale. Forget about any comment that I'm gonna make about all of the other cars because it doesn't matter. All of them are gonna get absolutely destroyed and obliterated by the SF90 Stradale Evo. Probably until Champion 1, where you're finally gonna start seeing other cars that can compete. But over here we got the next problem, the Bugatti Chiron, another Evo car that is just gonna absolutely destroy everything. Once again, I understand that they want to pair up Lamborghini Chiron. What? Sorry, I was seeing the Sienna over here. The Bugatti Chiron. I just licked out the new Lambo. The Bugatti Chiron at a rank of 4,800 versus a 40. I think it's 4,600. This car, 4,800. So I see that. But when you have this car Evo and it reaches something like 5,100, then is when this car doesn't make sense over here. It's already a bit of an ask to match a Sian versus a Chiron, but you know, in some races the Sian could probably still get the upper hand, specifically when it comes to agility and nitro duration and things like that, but still. So long as the Chiron is not Evo, I'm okay with this being over here. But if the Shiva was to be Evo, well, it's gonna be destroying everything over here. In which case, I recommend that instead of being here, it gets put into Legendly. You see what I'm saying? If a car becomes Evo, I think it should be in a different league or sub-league. Stop allowing them to compete in the same way. That is the part that annoys me so much. Now, Legend is the part where I'm not going to be able to make a lot of comments because I don't have a ton of these cars. Even in my best accounts, I have them, but not at high stars. So I couldn't tell you how this is going to work out. But I do imagine that a Koenigsegg CCXR is going to lose to a Venom F5 every single time. So I don't think this is exactly super fair either. But yeah, I'll have to save my thoughts on that one until actually I get to experience it, if I ever get to experience it over here. But yeah, overall, I just really don't like the fact that they continue to allow Evo cars to compete in the rank or league where the non-Evo version of the car would compete. Again, if this competes over here without Evo, it's fine. But the moment that it's Evo and it gets into a much higher rank, put it into higher sub-leagues. That is my recommendation to GameLove in order to stop creating this situation where you have absolutely no reason to use any of these cars, worthless. You don't need to use any of this because you already can use the SF90 Stradale. And again, coming back to the topic of this being subjective, maybe you don't have the SF90 Stradale and at Evo, and then you are considering using all of these cars, but you know what? You might be over here being like, oh no, but I'm gonna use my Lamborghini Veneno that I have at 6 stars oh, you know what, you're still gonna find those Estradales and they're gonna absolutely destroy you. So that's why, even if you don't have this car, it's worth talking about it, because it's a problem that affects everybody. And this is just plain wrong. Really, the only salvageable thing over here, one of the few salvageable things related to the changes to multiplayer, is when it comes to the Triumph reward, that at least once you get into Platinum 1, you're gonna be able to get for free the, what is it called? The Mercedes C11. So that's kind of dope. Free car for everybody, so that's nice. But other than that, it just feels like it's a way to, I don't know if there's a way to express this easily. Oh, soften the blow. That's what it is. Soften the blow. The blow of all of the reduction on the rewards, at least of the rarity of the cars and all of that. Oh yeah, no, here's a free car for you. Enjoy. Forget about all of the other bad things that we did. Now, I don't want to come off as completely negative about this, although I obviously had a lot of negative things to say about this. Like I mentioned, I like the change that they did over here related to the Champion League, where they stopped creating these matchups through the car rank alone, and instead they also put into consideration the fact that a higher class has higher performance than a lower class at the same rank. Once again, a 4000 class S car has no business competing against a 4000 class C car. Now, the solution would be for Gameloft to completely rework the entirety of the ranks in the game so that they make sense, but that's probably not gonna happen. So instead, the suggestion that I continue to give Gameloft is to consider the class of the car as an additional filter as to how the cars are arranged. In some previous videos, somebody gave me this idea, and I thought it was kind of interesting, that maybe in order to match up the cars, and this was specifically for MP2, but I think it would work for the arrangement of the cars. Let's say that you have a 3000 class A car. Well, this shouldn't be matched against 3000 class B. Instead, it should be matched against 32 or 3300 class B. You know, it's a higher performance in tier in class B, but it kind of makes up for the fact that this car overall is better. Same thing for class S. 3800 class S car should be competing against a 4100 class A, maybe a 4400 class B. You see what I'm saying? I think it's a bit of an interesting idea as to how to kind of make up for this incredible imbalance in regards to the rank of the high tiers of class. Because again, look at this poor thing at 4000 rank versus, again, a 4000 rank like this. Yeah, makes no sense. But anyway, overall, my general thoughts in relation to these changes, they're not good. But let's hope that Gameloft will be receptive to get all of this feedback and consider it and rework things. The fact that they decided to create this whole new separation of the leagues and whatnot, people were upset that the cars were rotating, the selection of cars. Well, the cars are no longer going to be rotating from bronze to platinum. They're always going to be the same cars. They only rotate in champion and higher. So hey, they listened to the fact that people didn't like that they couldn't use some of the cars, at least in a portion of the game, and the other portion is still gonna change. You know, it shows that Gameloft is listening to this. We just need to provide a bunch of feedback, and well, I'm sure we all are doing just that. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you thought about this whole thing. What is the part that you dislike the most when it comes to the changes, when it comes to the rewards, and how does it compare to how they used to be? Don't just tell me, I hate that it's 60 tokens. Tell me, I hate that it's 60 tokens when in the previous version it was 100. That gives more context to what you're saying, and this is the same type of feedback that I can provide to Gameloft. It's not the same if I tell them, people are complaining that it's 60 tokens, than to tell them, people are complaining that you reduce the token amount by 40%. It's a different type of feedback. But anyway, like, subscribe, see you next one. Bye!